Awesome.
Um,
Thank you.
Rachel, look at all your people in the background. Talk to me about those.
No.
I know you were interviewing me, but still, who are they?
What?
Who are they?
There's a lot of Marvel and a lot of Star Wars, and then there's Prince.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, Prince, of course. One of the famous superheroes, of
Yes.
course. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty much all they are. They're just those ones are just the Marvel. And well, I guess Parks and Rec, but
Oh, Parks and Rec. Okay. Well, they're superheroes I can get down with. Oh, I love that.
um, so I love the show. It's filled with a bunch of people that I'm obsessed with, and I really like how
Oh,
you've written all of these characters and how they interact with one another. I'm obsessed with how Anya interacts with everyone in the same way, but it's how everyone accepts
yeah.
that reaction.
Yeah.
And so I
I,
want to know, coming from a writing standpoint and as well as playing Anya, is that um, was that something you were cognizant of when you were creating it, or was it something more just once you got into the character?
yeah, it is. I was fascinated by it. I remember watching this show called First Dates, which is really big over here. And there was this one guy who you could see the editors were being a bit cheeky with him, and kind of like fostering him a bit of crazy fuel. And he was like, oh my God, I love big round women, blah, 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 blah. And he went on this date with this woman who was quite serious. And even though she matched his type physically, um, he seemed crazy by comparison at this dinner date, and you could see her being like, oh my God. And then the next week he was back in the restaurant for another date, and the first thing he said again was like, oh my God, I love big round women. And she was like, thank you, darling. And suddenly through her eyes you could see the shiniest version of him, where his energy, which is so his own, just is received with the intention it was supposed to have. And it doesn't excuse anything where people go wrong, but what you're looking for are your people, and the people who make you feel great. And no matter who you are, they should be the people you're sort of around. So I love that you've spotted that, because I love seeing that interaction, that kind of status game. Who comes into a room and suddenly changes things.
Yeah.
So say, for example, Sophie Stone plays Julie, who's Sharon's secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she is lower down than Shona and Indira, she has a higher status than everyone else in the office. And I love, or like, do you want a coffee? Like, and I loved playing around with that. And Sophie's really funny. I'd seen her in a play and has that same kind of, like, without saying anything, just naturally becomes a higher status. And so I love seeing how one person walks in and just the dynamics change in a room.
Yeah, I really liked because I especially like in the first season with Richard and Anya, like she came in and would make jokes and he was like, I don't understand what this is.
Okay.
And then like she would make the same jokes with Shauna and would be like, she would like, okay, like I'm aware of your jokes. I'm your older sister. And I really like that. And I like that it's in season 2, it's become more balanced with Richard because he's a little bit more used to Anya.
Yeah. And then her perception is, oh, he's not funny. Whereas a lot of, and I find this happens a lot where I'm thinking something about people because I'm not really shy, but you forget that some shy people are actually, some aloof people are actually very shy. And I can't comprehend that. But some people are like, I was like, oh my God, I thought you were so cold. And they were like, I thought you were too much and you were forcing yourself on me personality wise. And I was like, oh no, I was just trying to like make you smile. And they're like, oh, I just didn't know what to say. I'm not as quick as you. And that's happening there. But it's almost like, I think for me, it's like the two of them were speaking different languages, not realizing in one culture what the other person is saying is rude. And they're like, but I just asked directly, I want a coffee. And they're like, you would always say please and thank you. And you're like, oh, but not in my language, So that's what I kind of like seeing. What about when everyone sort of warms up and she eventually can make him smile, or he gets to see the full version of her and it's something that he actually likes?
Yeah, well, it's really, I'm also not shy. And so I'm the kind of person who I don't like silence and I like will fill it with nonsense. So I love Anya because she very much seems that same way of like, I'm just going to keep talking until someone says something else.
Yeah, I'll just keep going. No, I don't mind being interrupted, but just keep going until something happens. Anything could happen. Can anything happen? Anything happen? There we go, finally.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's a very fun energy because I watched Catastrophe. And so I saw that Sharon Hogan energy. And then
Yeah.
watching it in her in the show is very different because it's not as she's the straight man in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Well,
these scenes.
she's not a straight man. I don't believe in straight men. I think everyone has their joke. I think what happens is you're less outwardly clownish than
Yeah.
the person you're with. But she's actually really funny. She's got loads of
Oh yeah.
things to play with. And I would never have written her she wouldn't have played a straight man. So she still gets to do her jokes and stuff like that, where she gets to be funny, but she's not the big clown in it, and she's also not the brat, maybe. Whereas what I like doing with Shona is because she's not a natural brat. She's like a businesswoman, a serious businesswoman. I love putting her brattishness in. So when it comes out in the office, like, oh, the flowers are dead, or when she like punches me and is a bit of a brat then, or with Asif, where she's like, I'm sick, it's awful. And I find that a really funny quality when you have someone who's can be bratty.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I kind of like playing around with Sharon's character.
Well, yeah, and I just love all the dynamics on the show. My one friend for forever, because I love Game of Thrones, and so she was like, "You should watch this one up for Indira," and then you also recommended to watch a show, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's on my list of my quarantine shows to catch up on." And then I watched all of it, and I was like, "Oh, she was right. I should have watched this." Like,
that's so nice.
But I love all the dynamics, and so for going into season 2, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but what I really liked is, so at the end of season 1, we watched.
You don't have to worry about spoilers because I wrote it, so I actually know what happened. Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil you and what happens.
Oh, don't tell me.
But no, I really liked how season 2 starts answering some of the questions from where we left off in season 1 instantaneously. Like, it's not like, especially with the reveal about Shauna and my head's just like Indira.
Charlotte, yeah. Yeah.
Indira. We learned about their dynamic within that first episode. And so was that just, as a writer, was that something that you were just kind of like, I want it out, that this is what happened?
Yeah, I definitely tried to work out where to parachute in. I knew where I wanted to go, but it was actually episode 1 and 2 that were the hardest to write, because I was like, you know what the audience wants and where you left things. And also, when you write a cliffhanger in your first series, you don't know what's going to get picked up again. So you put everything in there at the end, hoping people will kind of sniff out something that they want. But then that means when you come back in it too, where are you coming in at? And what I did at the end of this series, that if there was a third series or if there wasn't, we could either leave it here or we could jump 2 years down the line if we wanted to. Whereas when you end on a kiss like that and frisson, you have to give the audience a bit of something that they want. But you don't want to be bored as a writer writing a show 2 years later after you've written the first series and still typing the next week, because I've grown as a person, the things I want to do and the conversations I had. So I was like, oh, what about Shona and Indira having had Shona and Charlotte having had the affair, and actually the emotional dialogue around that? And then you get the sort of like bit of sex with Richard and Anya, but actually where does that leave them if Shona's not been very good emotionally, if she's done a bit of a dumping? And how does that, and it gave me a lot more to pad out Charlotte's character as well, that scene where they're both on the floor having it out is one of my favorite scenes. I think Indira and Sharon are such brilliant actresses, and that was kind of my favorite scene, maybe because I'm not in it so I could watch it. But that was when I saw them do the first rehearsal of that, I was like, oh, okay, this will be good. They're such incredible actresses. They had that like perfect on the first take. They've also got incredible chemistry together. Shona or Sharon and Indira, when they act
now
together.
Now we're flipping all the names.
Yeah. Who am I, man? Who am I?
Well, yeah, and I like everyone has such incredible performances, like especially you with Anya, because you'll be watching her making some smart ass thing and then she's sobbing 2 seconds later because like she's not okay, and she always pretends she is through her humor, which is a very relatable thing, especially in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so with all of these characters, and a lot of them that do hide their emotions, where you mentioned if you did a season 3, where it would go, where is a place you would like to take this show eventually?
I think it's almost like, I'm not sure if you do this, but you know, when you have a feeling going, oh, from everything else is from now on. Like I would know, I would look back at my life and go, oh, that was the sort of book up till that point, like say up to say 18. Then it was maybe 18 to 26, or maybe 18 to 21 when I was at university, then 21 to 28, which is moving to London, going to drama school, the aftermath of that, the sort of not knowing what I wanted to do. And it's almost like with Anya, and again, I don't know if I'll do a third series or not, but it's almost like I feel like a responsibility to leave her somewhere where we don't know what's going to happen, but the next chunk of her book is about to happen, rather than kind of up to that point. So it feels like there's the immediate accident in series 1, the physio of life in series 2, and then maybe series 3 is bedding in, and what now? Because even as a writer, you don't want to just stay like this story wise. So yeah, I always remember like with Catastrophe being like, I saw Sharon giving birth in series 2, and I'm like, oh, it's a second baby. So we're jumping into their relationship being 3 years on, which was quite interesting. And the bravery to do that and to not feel like you have to do it the next day or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I really liked about this. Like jumping right into season 2 was just like, no, we didn't get the
We didn't
aftermath. We
need a big
watched.
kind of car journey there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as a final, I hit my computer. As a final question, what is one of your favorite parts about writing for and getting to play Anya?
I think it's showing someone funny who is funny in the scene. I, over my career, and I often see it a lot, is playing people who do something that'll make the audience laugh, but the people in the scene are like, oh my God, oh, shut up. Are you serious? Why is she so weird? And I like playing someone who makes the other characters laugh and sells the jokes. The character makes jokes, not bad jokes, good jokes sometimes. She's funny, she's quick, she's witty. But she genuinely is. Not sometimes you get a character breakdown, you're like, she's witty, she's funny. And the character will go, that's right, everyone. And you're like, that's not a joke. That's someone who just exists above a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I think it was that. I think it was getting to be clownish around the people she's with, sort of thing, maybe. So yeah, I actually haven't thought about it. I think because this shooting this series was such a difficult battering that I didn't get much chance to enjoy playing it, to be honest. It was just every break in between scenes, there was some other thing I had to fix or sort. So, but maybe that part of it was quite, generally, that's kind of a nice thing to be able to play.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I can't wait for everyone to get to see
Oh,
I love it
thank
very much.
you. Oh, you're a star. All my love. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Rachel.
Bye. Have a good one.